What's going on, everyone? KJ here. Thought I'd mix it up a little bit by making a commentary type of video for the channel, which is something I haven't done in a long time. But anyway, as you see in the title, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on Beyblade Burst Turbo. I decided to do this because I felt like there were several points I wanted to bring up and talk about, and trying to do that in unboxing isn't really the best idea, you know? Of course, what I say in this video is entirely my opinion. You're not obligated to agree or disagree with me. But with that out of the way, let's get right into it. The first thing I want to discuss is this power/weight creep argument, which is sometimes brought up by people while discussing Turbo. Essentially, the power/weight creep is when older parts become outclassed as newer ones are released. And with a hobby like Beyblade that has a competitive aspect to it, the thought of there being a power/weight creep with this shouldn't come as a surprise to many. With all that being said, some people think that what Hasbro is doing with Turbo is good because it tried to get rid of the power/weight creep, but in actuality it still did it, just a reversed version. You see, Hasbro decided to go ahead and remove the metal from their turbo layers, a very big decision and one we'll never really know the true answer for. In doing so, it made turbo layers half the weight of their Takara counterparts. For example, Winning Valkyrie is 20 grams while Wonder Valkyrie 4 is 10 grams, around those numbers. Coupled with the fact that Cho-Z still exists, as well as the fact that we just finished the Evolution toy line, a lot of the turbo layers will probably struggle against previously released Switch Strike bays, especially ones with metal like Excalibur X3 and Lunar L3. And of course, it'll be hard for them to even stand a chance against their Takara counterparts as well. Because of this, a power creep/weight creep still does exist, and it really hindered the turbo layer's potential. And really, to be honest, if there wasn't a power/weight creep, if new releases weren't made better than previous releases, what motivation would you have to really buy the new releases to stay relevant in the metagame? You know what I'm saying? But let's move on to the next point. The next point I want to bring up is the whole argument that Hasbro tried to quote-unquote balance the meta with the decision they made with Turbo. With this, there are three metas I'll try to talk about. The Burst format, aka the current meta that the competitive scene for Burst revolves around in World Beyblade Organization/WBO tournaments. The Hasbro only format, another WBO format for Burst but with a scene that hasn't been active for a while, and the Hasbro World Championship. Starting with the Burst format, Hasbro's decision to basically nerf the turbo layers didn't really quote-unquote balance the meta at all. In fact, the meta will probably continue to stay the same, with Takara combos on top and Hasbro combos winning certain matchups but still relegated to a niche role. With the Hasbro only format, it's basically the same thing, but you have to factor in that you can only use Hasbro combos. With this format, I can see some turbo layers winning certain matchups, but overall, Switch Strike, the previous line, seems like a safer option due to how many great layers and parts we've gotten from that line so far. With that, I feel like there's a higher chance that Switch Strike combos will do better overall, but we'll have to see. Last but not least, we have the Hasbro World Championship, whose meta is currently dominated by Switch Strike. And if they ever decide to have another tournament in the future, the only way I really see Turbo being truly relevant is if they force everyone to use Turbo products in Slingshot stadiums. If not, Switch Strike will probably run the game. Overall, if Hasbro truly wanted to quote-unquote balance the meta, they either should have balanced all of their releases from day one, although that would probably be pretty trash, or they should have given Turbo layers metal, which is what I think they really should have done, as if the inclusion of metal would have given turbo layers a chance at standing up to their Takara counterparts, meaning Hasbro combos would have a way better shot of doing well and perhaps even placing at WBO tournaments. While watching other people unbox Turbo products, one of the points that was brought up was that Turbo allowed for more action-packed battles, which could mean more bursts. Well, in my opinion, the main gimmick from an entire series shouldn't have to be sacrificed for that. And if you're having trouble experiencing bursts from Takara, you gotta put your thinking cap on and try to find combos that can potentially burst stuff. Knowing that you've encountered a problem is one thing, but if you don't really work to solve that problem, the situation will probably never change. Another vibe I got from some recent Turbo unboxings is that all of them could fall into one or more of these categories here: sugarcoating, fake hype, or avoiding the obvious problems that Turbo has. Now for me, if you perhaps thought I didn't talk enough about Turbo in my unboxings, I apologize. That's essentially the purpose of this video. I'm not trying to take shots at anyone in particular with this point here either. I'm just trying to explain why what some of them did wasn't the best in my opinion. The reason why all three of the categories are bad is because you can wind up giving off the wrong impression to your audience, and they can wind up spending money on something and find out that it's not as good as you thought, not as good as you said it was. And then with that, your integrity could be on the line. So in any case, just be honest with how you feel. Even if people don't agree with what you have to say, at least they'll know you were telling the truth. And again, once again, I'm not taking shots at anybody. It's just the way I guess the way I felt about some of the unboxings that I saw. It was just like, I don't know. I don't know. They didn't really vibe with me. That's all I'm trying to get at. Remember Hyperblades or Beyblade Legends? Both of those toy lines allowed Hasbro to somewhat redeem themselves for their bad decision making in the past. And now, for the Burst series, I really hope we can go down that same route, especially if Hasbro messes up the next series after Chozetsu or Cho-Z. They need to redeem themselves, really. Because if not, Beyblade probably won't go out on a positive note, and people who only buy Hasbro for various reasons, like myself, will be stuck with wondering what could have been. It's just like, I understand obviously them releasing Slingshot and then the next series after Cho-Z or whatever it'll be called for Turbo, and then if they were to release Hyperblades or Legends for Burst, it would be viewed as more of a cash grab. But even then, I'd still be thankful for it, because it's like I finally have Cho-Z, basically Hasbro Cho-Z with the metal, with the slopes, and we finally have the Beyblades. We finally have the Beyblades that we should have gotten like months ago. You get what I'm saying? This next point ties into an earlier point I discussed of the whole thing of Turbo equaling more bursts. But this point talks a little bit more about the competitive scene. As of recently, the burst format meta has basically been overrun by the same three layers: Archer Hercules, Hell Salamander, and Revive Phoenix to a degree. The problem with trying to use mobile attack, aka using things like Extreme, Hunter, Extreme Dash, Hunter Dash, all that stuff, right, is that it's inconsistent to get wins, let alone risky as well. Going back to the earlier point, some people like Turbo because of the increased bursting. However, if you're going to complain about the current meta being so toxic, yet at the same time you don't really make an effort to change it, some of the blame is kind of on you as well. And if you're using those same toxic parts you complain about at tournaments, that's even worse, as you're being pretty hypocritical there. Not trying to take shots, but let's be real. But look at it like this: if mobile attack is inconsistent and risky, then you should try to change your approach. Maybe stationary attack might be the answer. For example, if someone wants to use Archer Hercules on Extend Plus, maybe try Winning Valkyrie on Extend Plus. If someone wants to use Hell Salamander on Extend Plus, maybe try Bloody Longinus on Extend Plus. For Revive Phoenix on Extend Plus, just try anything relevant on Extend Plus or other drivers and see what works. The point is, if you're going to complain about the meta but do nothing about it, you can't really expect it to change. The next point, and the last point in this video that I want to talk about, is Burst Limited, a potential format that some people want in the future. Similar to the Metal Fight Beyblade or MFB limited format, it could allow older parts to be relevant again. With the MFB limited format, I heard that certain parts from Metal Fury were actually good, but correct me if I'm wrong. Now with Burst Limited, depending on its structure, maybe some turbo layers could be good, we'd have to see. To be honest, regardless of the fact that Hasbro basically oofed Turbo, there'd still be a Burst Limited eventually, so yeah, I mean, even if the turbo layers were good and they all had metal, like we'd still be using things like single, dual, god layer, stuff like, well, switch like layer, like some of the weaker ones in Burst Limited anyway, so it'd still be all good in the neighborhood. But that pretty much wraps it up, so let's get right into the ending points. But that just about wraps up my thoughts on Beyblade Burst Turbo, mainly the toy line, of course. As far as the anime goes, just to put this in here so people aren't complaining like, oh, you didn't mention the anime. Well, the dub hasn't really aired in the United States yet. I've seen the first episode in the dub. I mean, it looks alright. I might check out a few episodes every now and then. But I'm more concerned about the toy line. You get what I'm saying? But anyway, overall, basically, I don't like the decision Hasbro made. I'm still going to collect and test turbo parts, but the whole thing with what they did was not what I had in mind. And because of this, I really hope Hasbro redeems themselves with a Hyperblades Burst or Beyblade Burst Legends down the line. But that's the end of the video. If you want to add your 2 cents in as well, definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, be sure to give it a like. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. And be sure to hit the notification bell so to notify of all my uploads. But until next time, I'll see y'all later.